Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I am looking at DC Comics Presents number 66, Superman and the Demon. Are you ever just digging through a bin and kind of run across a cover of a title maybe you don't usually get and think, yeah, I'm bringing that one home? This was that for me. I do like this DC Comics Present title. It's not one I generally pick up. Sometimes I think maybe I should put a run together because usually I enjoy them. It's essentially a team up title with Superman, kind of like Marvel Team Up was with Spider Man or Marvel 2 in 1 with The Thing. Brave and the Bold is more or less a Batman team up title, which is a great way, really, to take like a popular character and maybe expose readers to some lesser known characters through that team up without having to do it regularly in the main popular character's regular title. So if the Superman and Demon team up didn't catch my eye, I immediately recognized this as Joe Kubert art. So at first I was like, oh, cool Joe Kubert cover. Let me take it out and look at it. And as I opened it up, I was like, oh man, Joe Kubert did the interior art altogether, pencils and inks. Adam Kubert was the letterer. So at that point, it was definitely okay, I'm buying this book. And it was cheap. I think it was in like a $2 bin or something like that. So this was a no brainer to go ahead and grab. Something I wasn't really thinking of in the moment, but kind of reflected on later. I don't know that the Demon made many appearances between the Jack Kirby series ending in the mid 70s until this, which is 1983. The next Demon miniseries came out in 1987, and then there was an ongoing series that came out in like 89 or 90 that lasted for quite a while. And of course, the Demon is pretty much a staple of DC Comics to this day. But if you know of any Demon appearances between the Kirby series and 1983, let me know, because for all I know, this was kind of a return of the character, like coming back. And by the dialogue in this issue, we'll see it appears like this is the first time the Demon and Superman have ever crossed paths. So I'm not going to call it a key book by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely an intriguing one for DC lore. Superman meeting a Kirby character like the Demon, who was almost kind of removed from proper DC in that Kirby series. Other than that, he was in Gotham City. Anyway, I love this opening page. You definitely got a very Kirby-esque pose. You can see the Joe Kubertness about all of this, the line work, the inking, the figures, everything about this just screams, this is Joe Kubert on this page. I also kind of miss opening title pages like this. It's almost like, in a way, it's like a secondary cover. Comics today don't really do that, and they kind of stopped doing it even by the 90s for the most part. I guess you could look at it two ways. One is if this was on a newsstand and a kid picked it up and they just opened the first page, you want to give them something right on that first page that's going to pique their imagination the way the cover did. And if you just put like a standard 9-panel grid or something on the first page, a young reader's probably you're already closing it and putting it back on the shelf. Writers probably don't like it too because you're losing a page of storytelling when you do this. Those are fair arguments. I happen to love opening cover pages like this, like an old Ditko did it in old Spider-Mans, and some of the early FFs kind of did it too before Kirby just started using that opening splash as part of the story. But opening splashes in general are just kind of, they're not utilized the way they used to be. And that to me is a failing of modern comics. I would also say that in today's version, though, these opening title pages would not translate well in a graphic novel trade paperback collection because they would interrupt the flow of the story. So pros and cons of what a opening splash page could do today. I happen to love them. I understand why they've kind of gone away, but it's definitely a tool that could still be used in modern comics. That's just not, it's just not. So this isn't actually, like I said, this is not really the start of the story. It's more or less just like a secondary cover, because now we're going to open up this This double page splash, which I happen to think is fantastic. I don't think it would have captured the imagination of kids so much. I mean, it is dinosaurs, but you look closer, it's a museum. How interested in museums are kids? I think it's great. And something that I've noticed on this was the little people in the background here. On a recent episode of Cartoonist Kayfabe, Ed and Jim are playing a game where they're kind of zooming in on just like a little section of like a panel or a page, and each of them are taking turns guessing on who the artist is. And there was one where Jim had picked like a city street or something that had like people off in the distance like this, and Ed guessed it as Joe Kubert because of the way these people are drawn, like little wooden clothespins. And so I thought about that when I was looking at it. I was like, oh, I remember Ed said that. So I looked, and it's absolutely right. I mean, all these little figures in the background, they're just a cylinder with two little like twigs coming off like this to be a clothespin. And as they get closer, they get arms and stuff. But yeah, you got the clothespin people right there. So to set the stage of the story, we're in Gotham City at essentially a natural history museum. Clark is there with Lana, who I guess he was like dating at this time. Um, she doesn't seem to know that he's Superman. I don't know if that had been incorporated into Superman lore. This is pre-crisis, but she definitely doesn't act like she knows who Superman is in this book. The person that they're going to see at this museum is Lana's father. And again, while I know a good bit of Superman lore, I know Lana Lang. I don't know really anything about her dad. He's apparently some archaeologist professor, and he's going to reveal this cloaked figure off in the distance, this thing that he found in an archaeological dig. But I do love, I like this setting right here of the double page splash. I think that these two breaks of the panels are kind of weird because it does feel like you need to read it here and then just come down here, or like you should still read this page and then read this, but it doesn't. It flows like this. I just think this break is not, it doesn't ruin it, but it confused me for a second. So we're going to establish our second character in the story, which is Jason Blood, and he is with a woman named Glenda. Now, Glenda is heavily hinting that she does know his secret because Jason explains here that he says, as Jason Blood, noted demonologist, I came here tonight to examine the arcane artifact, but as Etrigan, undying servant of the mighty Merlin, I may have found a great deal more. As I was saying, I don't know how much the demon and Etrigan and Jason Blood had been in anything between the Kirby series and this book. So I'd say for probably at least 5 years, you've got like a new wave of readers was coming in about every 5 years. So definitely it's corny dialogue for that reason, but it did need to establish who this character is. This is Jason Blood, and he's also Etrigan the Demon. So Lana's dad, Professor Lang, unveils this wooden statue, and he calls it the last of the Druids. Great layout here to really see the whole statue. You get like kind of some shock, not shocked, but just like in awe faces around, staring at the statue. And he explains how he found it buried in this archaeological dig and stuff. This is so Kubert to me. The line work, everything about it. I mean, if this is one of those pages that if you just showed me this, I would go, oh, that's Joe Kubert. The hands, the face, everything about it, the drapery. And then as the moon rises, something happens to the statue and it wakes up. And this is a great transition panels here of the cartooning of the moonlight coming in. It's coming through the skylight, hitting the statue. You even see the shadows of the skylight across his face. Pretty cool. They even kind of connect from panel to panel. And you see the eyes open kind of slowly, like he's waking up, and then almost like a shocked eye, like he doesn't really know where he is immediately, but he knows he needs to act fast. Free at last! He announces his name as Blackbriar Thorn. Behold, the world of men once more. So the people are kind of standing around shocked, He uses some kind of power he has to whip up like a wind, which throws everybody to their feet. Clark's going to duck out. And look at this little panel of Clark. And this is the stuff that, man, Joe Kubert was so good at. This is a teeny tiny little panel. You get everything you need out of this small panel. The wind's whipping around, throwing everybody off. And now, so Glinda is helping Jason make his exit for the same thing that Clark needed to do. She's going to pretend to faint. Professor Lang, who happens to be standing there, is able to grab her, and he's like, I'll go get help. Jason Blood runs off into another room and summons the demon. Look at this transformation scene here too. Look at that. It's like pain and then almost like elation until the demon arises. I mean, Kubert is definitely going for his Kirby-ness here. He's got the Kirby pose of the demon and everything going on right there. That's great. Announcing his name big, Etrigan. Ha 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 ha. This is an awesome page. Awesome. At the same time, Superman is flying in. Lana's like, oh good, it's him. He's always around. Always around when I need him. Superman goes to take on the Blackthorn wooden statue guy, and all of a sudden the floor starts like growing. The wooden floor becomes like planks, which, was it a wooden floor? That makes me want to go back and look and see. It looked more like big tile slabs. Whatever. Maybe it's just coming up from under the ground. Who knows? Anyway, the floor is like growing vines. Superman realizes that this character is using some magic, which he is, of course, susceptible to. And again, just a small panel. A small horizontal panel. He's laughing. So much you get out of just this. Etrigan shows up too, and this is where Superman's like, oh great, another monster, but at least he seems like he's on my side. And Etrigan uses some hellfire or whatever to kind of help Superman burn away the burn away the vines. And then the Blackthorn guy realizes that, oh no, maybe this demon is too much, and this other guy, and he's really taken aback, because even on this page, even right here, he is shocked by Superman. By the oak thou dost fly. What manner of creature art thou? So he's shocked by Superman there. So then when the demon shows up too, he figures he needs to make his retreat and just kind of get his bearings on where, when he is, what this world is like. So he just kind of takes off. And he has this wind going so strong that they can't really see him to chase after him. And he's gone, and so the demon's just like, okay, the threat's over, I'm out of here too. And Superman's like, hold on, wait, we need to talk. But then the demon's just gone. That's a good laughter by the demon, I guess. Clark makes his return to the scene and says how the wind whipped up and knocked him out of blew him out of the museum. And so he came back. Great face on Lana there. So, I mean, kind of sly. She's like, really, love, there are still moments when I don't know what I see in you. Good looking face right there. So then Professor Lang introduces Clark to Jason Blood, noted demonologist. They go over to Jason's penthouse apartment or whatever. And this was something that in the early issues of the Kirby Demon 2, they do the same thing where they have somebody kind of looking at the paintings of the wall. And it's Jason Blood through the centuries. And of course, he always, over time, would say, I'm the son of the previous Blood. I'm Jason Blood the fifth or whatever. Anyway, and he's looking at him like, oh, these pictures, it's almost as if they're the same man. And Glinda's trying to pretend like, she's like, no, it's just a strong family resemblance. But the conversation's interrupted when Jason comes in with the information that he's found out about Blackbriar Thorn. So great panel here too, close up on the eye. Look at that eyebrow, like bushy eyebrow, looking at Lana's face. This is a great page. It's simple. It's not like Demon page necessarily, but I love this like vertical like profile of Jason. It's not just the face; it's most of his body. He's holding this book of ancient spells and rituals. I love this, just the red ink on the yellow background here, explaining who Blackbriar Thorn was, this like head of this one of the biggest druid sects, and the Romans kind of were able to overtake him finally, but he was buried under some mounds of dirt, and I guess he cast a spell or something, which turned him into this petrified wood figure. And they said something happened, something the heavens must have aligned to release him from that state of suspended animation that he had put himself in. Which we kind of got that briefly with the moon. It's the quick. We just need the story to function and move quick. So the moon freeing, the moon hit the statue in just the right way. The heavens aligned for this magical spell to release this character. Back to the what is, I guess, Central Park of Gotham City. He's just chilling on a bench right there. You gotta love that shot too. I mean, look, he's got his legs crossed and he's just relaxing and contemplating what's going on. Some muggers show up and he basically dismisses them quickly by waving his hand gesture, which makes the grass grow so high that it just swallows him. And he's contemplating needing a new body, that this wooden form he's in is not going to be suitable for this world, and he has already encountered just such the figure. He wants to take over the body of Superman, and he's not sure how he's going to find Superman to accomplish this. So instead, he quickly realizes, you know what? He showed up when there was something going on. So what if I just do something to make him find me? And that's exactly what he does. So he starts making the park just grow and take over. I like the coloring here too. I guess I should have mentioned the color is Tatiana Wood. Tatiana Wood. Yep, that's her last name. If I'm not mistaken, I think she did a lot of the coloring in the Swamp Thing run for Alan Moore as well. I'll have to look that up. More great just Joe Kubertness going on right here. And I'm going to give a shout out to Adam Kubert too. The lettering in this is super clear. Like, I don't feel like I've struggled with any of the letters. Sometimes parts of letters can bleed together. Printing on this newsprint is pretty solid for the time period. I usually kind of bust on Marvel and their crappy printing, but this is pretty good. It's, still newsprint, maybe like a little heavier than some, but pretty solid printing. Get like the big overgrowth of the park taking over the city. Here Superman is actually talking about how he was going to go ask Batman for help, but he was out running around with those outsiders, hotshot outsiders of his. And there's an editor's note about go check out Batman and the Outsiders. He also mentions that ever since he quit the Justice League, the Batman has been growing more somber, more distant, and more Great Krypton, the park. I guess it's referencing Batman and the Outsiders #1 as when he quit the Justice League. I know Batman was with the Outsiders, but I don't really know a whole lot about that time period. So interesting. I like editor's notes. It makes me want to check things out. Great figure work here with Superman. Kind of reminds me of like a Gil Kane style Superman, but it's the line work, it's the inking that definitely tips it off as Kubert. A little bit of a receding hairline there, a little bit much probably. So Superman's digging through the vines and he sees Professor Ling and he's going to rescue him when all of a sudden he's just about to touch him when he's, hold! Superman, stay your hand. Who? And it's Etrigan. He shows up again. And Etrigan likes to speak in rhyme. If you don't know Etrigan, he is always rhyming. It's obvious yet subtle in this. Like Lin Wein is the writer, and he doesn't go super heavy-handed in the rhyming, but he's definitely doing things like the one who felt my demon flame is called by quite another name. So Etrigan tells him to stop, and Superman's like, you're crazy, as Etrigan hits him with the demon fire. He's like, no, stop. Superman's like, I'm going to get after you now. And that's when he's like, said that about, it goes by another name, and it was Blackbriar Thorn. And he's like, how? And Etrigan explains, he had taken a form of someone you know. He's trying to take over your form. And if you had touched him, you would have been gone. So now Superman's like, well, how do we stop him if I can't even touch him? And then Blackbriar Thorn, he's growing here. It looks like he's making multiples of himself, but really this is just a demonstration of him like growing big. He's made himself large. He's pretty powerful. I don't know why he necessarily wants Superman's body. Maybe because he can't fly. So then Superman gets an idea about how to stop him and asks Etrigan to just distract him. Keep him distracted while I do something. I like this panel a lot too. I like the way the Etrigan is in the foreground. Superman's in the back. They're blowing wind around snow building up on Superman. A great Etrigan face there. And even this, look at this foot stomping down, and he's like kind of under it. So essentially, Etrigan keeps him distracted long enough for Superman to dig a boulder underneath him and lift him up off the ground. Gonna wrap up super fast here, though. I think Superman basically takes him up into the sky. He releases some power, and it like evaporates him, I guess. I don't know. The ending to this is a little abrupt, I felt like. And then he comes down and he's gone, and he's like, how? And Superman explains that I noticed the source of his power was being connected to the earth. So I removed him from being connected to the earth, and when he expelled his powers, he just became one with the elements. And with him gone, Gotham Park is returning to normal. I'd say 'twill be a perfect day. And that is the end of the Demon and Superman meeting for presumably the first time. If there's another time before this, please let me know in the comments, because this makes it sound like they just met. I'm sure that's all upended in Crisis, but as far as I know, this is their first time. Pretty great issue. I definitely recommend looking this one up if you are digging through back issue bins and run across this one. It's one to get. I like this one quite a bit. So that's it. That's all I got. Until next time, read your comics.